Lads, huge game coming up in the Champions League. Paris Saint-Germain against Newcastle. Nick Mendola, is this revenge for Kylian Mbappe and PSG? Obviously, they lost 4-1 at Newcastle on a historic win for the Magpies earlier on in the group stage. But they've been improving under Luis Enrique, right? They're a force at home, especially in the Champions League. Won both those home games already. So this is a really big test for Newcastle with all their injuries. What are you looking forward to in this game in Paris?
You ever watch Eddie Howe with Bournemouth, and they're playing defensively, but at the end of the game, the opposing manager says something like, "Credit to Eddie Howe for playing football." I hope Eddie doesn't fall into that trap. Given the fact that the weekend they have coming off an international break in which their best players were busy, whether it would be with Brazil or not playing for England or just healing up, I think PSG has got a hope to score early. So Newcastle has to play because Newcastle does need a result here. It's been a brutal group for them, and things have kind of slid away. I am expecting a bit of a slog. Can Newcastle turn it into that, or can PSG avoid that? The good news is I think there's a better chance that PSG avoid it that Newcastle turn into that. And you're right. They look better as of late. Enrique's a good coach. They have been better at home. And a team like PSG doesn't get embarrassed often by a non-name. And I don't mean to say Newcastle isn't a name around the world. They are. But when they lose, it was Barcelona just did them in. And I think revenge could be on the cards here.
Yeah, Andy, when we look at that return game, it was one of those games where pretty much everything went in for Newcastle. It was a great moment, great occasion, underlined all the great success they've had under Eddie Howe. But for PSG, they created a lot of chances and they just had a bit of an off day. Again, at St. James's, the wind was swirling, the rain was hammering down. But this feels different. This feels like, obviously, if PSG win this one with the other results going their way, there's a chance that they could seal their qualification to the last 16 with one game to go, which in Group F would be brilliant, given that this was the group of death and had these teams in there. What are you expecting? What kind of game are you expecting to see at the Parc des Princes?
Yeah, it's not often that a team has 73% of possession away from home, by the way, and they lose 4-1. And that was the case. And obviously game state and Newcastle looking to hold on. But the fact that as they were holding on to the 1-0 lead and the 2-0 lead, the chances and the goals just kind of kept coming for them. It was a bit of a perfect storm, no pun intended, that night there at St. James's Park. And it became a little bit... It snowballed. I wanted to say it became a little overwhelming for PSG, but I think it was strictly a Newcastle thing that night. And so I think, you go to Paris for the. I don't love Newcastle's chances here. I'll just be straight up. You take the injuries that they're dealing with at the moment, and just some kind of up and down performances, I think, more than results so far this season. It's weird how Newcastle have almost, and juggling Champions League is going to do this to teams, but it's weird how they've become more of a results team than maybe performance, whereas last year they were just impressing every single time they took the field, whether they got the win or not. So they're going to look to sit in deep and try to defend and make this. There's a phrase that we use in American football: make the game as short as possible. Run the ball every single time. Keep the clock moving, and get to 90 minutes as fast as possible. Maybe they escape with a point, and they can set themselves up for that kind of final day matchup with AC Milan. And as Nick has said, I think all season, or since Newcastle qualified for the Champions League, or maybe just since the group stage draw, that winning the Europa League is perhaps their best chance to get into the Champions League next season, and finishing third, which they would do by beating Milan, would help to accomplish that.
Nick, I mean, that's a great point, right, in terms of Newcastle's aims for this group. Obviously, they'd love to get through to the last 16 in the Champions League, but if they aim for a draw in this one, it does set up a really tasty showdown against AC Milan on the final day of the group stage at St. James's. Is that the sort of best they can hope for? And can Newcastle actually do that? Just set up to kind of a 4-5-1 almost and just defend deep? Because it seems to be kind of against Eddie Howe's philosophy and his ideas as a coach, but kind of did that against Milan away as well, right? So is that kind of the playbook and the blueprint for them?
I think so, especially given what Andy mentioned about Isak perhaps not being ready for the full run. And again, after a weekend in which they'll be testing their depth again. There are too many good players on PSG. However, there's slivers of hope. The hamstring injury that Marquinhos suffered on Brazil duty, Zaire Emery, who has been fun for them, is out, I think, until January or February. Ultimately, there's more hope than you would suspect. I might put it at like 15% or 20% because before this international break, I would have had it at 0. But I guess you just don't know, do you? And that's why we watch the games. Sorry for the non-committal opinion, but there is a chance here. And you know, very much you love the Dumb and Dumber quote. You have for as long as I've known you. So you're saying there's a chance.
You're saying there's a chance. There is a chance. Well, there is a chance for anybody in this group because, as expected, it's the tightest group in the Champions League group stage. There's only 3 points between first place Dortmund and Newcastle in 4th. So it's still anybody's group to win and set up perfectly for these last 2 group stage round games. Andy, score prediction wise, I'll go first on this one. I'll often ask you guys to go first. I'm going to go 2-1 to PSG. I think it's going to be closer than we think, but I just think Mbappe, the star quality, will just about get the job done. What are you thinking, mate?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 to PSG, and I think Newcastle hold for a while, but eventually PSG just find a way through, and all the possession and all the chances that they're going to have, I think, over the course of 90 minutes, it would be a real accomplishment, a real treat for Newcastle if they could keep a clean sheet in this game because, I mean, 73% possession PSG had at St. James's Park. I would imagine it's probably going to be pretty similar here in this one as well. So good luck to Newcastle. I think they're the 5th best team, I think, in the Premier League this season. And so it's not as if they have fallen off from last season to this season. It's not as if they're not good enough for the Champions League and to compete in the Champions League. But you go into the 4th pot due to your coefficient ranking, and this is just what happens. Welcome to the big time.
Welcome to the big time. Nick, can you see a result for Newcastle that would have the Geordies dancing around the Arc de Triomphe and down the Champs-Elysees long into the night? Because this is a famous night for them, regardless of the result, given the journey that they've been on to get here. But they're going to need something pretty special from some of their star players, aren't they?
Yeah, I would say hold your horses. And if you're right, hide your horses is what I might say about this particular game. But Mbappe, Hakimi, Ugarte, Dembele, Lucas Hernandez. I'm going 3-1 to PSG.
Oh, it's going to be a fun game in Paris. Paris Saint-Germain against Newcastle United. Group F is so exciting and intriguing in the Champions League. And we'll keep you updated on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com as to how Newcastle get on away in Paris and how that sets things up for them in their final Champions League group stage game at home against AC Milan. They're looking for a draw. They'll obviously take a win, but it's going to be extremely tough for them against Kylian Mbappe and PSG. But Newcastle United, they're on a journey. They're on that journey, and they are absolutely flying. So let's see if they can shock us all once again.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.